Hi everyone, it's Maury, and welcome to my 6-month What Have I Learned video, although it isn't so much of a video as it is just some information sharing. I'm not able to do any filming today as I'm preparing to leave for California in the morning to visit family, so I thought I would take a few minutes to share some information and also test some new equipment. I'm recording this on a Zoom H2N field microphone with a lavalier microphone attached. This mic will do both stereo and surround sound recording, and I think it'll be fun to use while I'm traveling and visiting various parks and nature preserves. I tend to be a bit of a photography buff, and I'm going to expand that into audio as well. And it gives me a chance to improve the audio for this channel at the same time, so everyone wins and I stop getting complaints. I'll include links below so you can see what I ended up with. I feel it's a nice balance between improved audio here and also flexible recording for other things like traveling or business meetings, things like that. So, what have I learned? I thought it would be fun to go back and review my very first video on the channel, and in it, Rookie Maury talked about buying the van and how he wasn't sure where it was going to take him. Well, 6 or 7 months into ownership, I have a pretty firm grasp on the whole thing, and so here's where I'm at today. If you've been following along on my channel, you know that I've spent quite a bit of time either repairing or otherwise fixing and upgrading my Heimer Active van. Some of what I've done was more about the way that I like things to be and didn't necessarily change the functionality of the van itself. I dig into the details a lot, and it's just important for me to have things be clean and functional, and that includes everything from the way things work to the way things look. I've been asked regularly how I feel about my purchase, and more recently how I feel about it now that Heimer is gone. You know, I've thought about this quite a bit, and I have to say that even though the situation with Heimer is unfortunate, I don't regret the purchase at all. In comparing my van to the other Class B options, and I still do that today even though I already own the Heimer, I really do feel that it's the best combination of form and function for me, especially traveling alone. I can see how something larger or with more features might be helpful for couples, but for me it's perfect. While I was shopping and researching, one recurring theme that I heard over and over was about the build quality of RVs in general. Both in YouTube videos and in speaking with friends of mine that own RVs, they all said pretty much the same thing. If you purchase an RV for $100,000 and expect a level of quality that you would see in a $100,000 automobile, you're going to be very disappointed. At the time, I didn't really understand why that would be the case, but now that I'm pretty familiar with it all, I can definitely see that it's not reasonable to expect the level of polish that we'd see in a mass-produced luxury vehicle. That's not to say that RV manufacturers can't step up their game, but at least I understand a little better why they make some of the choices that they do. The reality is that you're talking about a very small number of units in a somewhat crowded market, and they have to produce a unit with pricing that will be tolerated by the RV public, while at the same time turning a profit. You can't just load up an RV with all of the technology that someone would want and then turn around and sell it for $60,000. It's not sustainable. I said in my last video that one of my recommendations to new RVers is to take their rig out for some short trips. Take a few weekend trips, get away, just to get a real understanding of how the van drives and parks and how all of the systems work and work together. This is also when you might shake out some issues that could cause some real problems while you're on the road, and gives you a chance to get them fixed at a convenient time. I really think from an owner's perspective, this is probably one of the best things you can do, so that once you do get out on the road for an extended trip, you're already very comfortable with everything and familiar with how it all works and operates, so that if something goes wrong, you're not blindsided. Another thing I learned is to keep all of the information about the rig together in one place. Now, in addition to all of the owner's manuals that I have in one location, I have a binder that has things that I've printed from various sources, not just about the RV, but about how to find places to boondock and rules and regulations for BLM land, calendars and schedules, things like that, and all of the insurance and roadside assistance coverage that I've got. This makes it very easy to grab and review in the event that there's an issue on the road and you need quick access to address an issue. So probably one of the more important items is being aware of the limitations of your RV, both physical limitations, meaning where it can safely go, as well as limitations of power systems, and the water storage is extremely important. Now, I'm not a heavy water user, so a full freshwater tank for me can last a long time, and I'm generally not going to be where I'm off grid for extended periods of time anyway. I don't plan on going where there's snow, and you may know that the Active isn't 4 seasons capable, and I don't have interest in snow anyway. Also, RVs are notorious for having very little ground clearance, and being aware of where your low-hanging equipment is and how to avoid damaging it is imperative. For example, in the Active, we have the underhood generator that hangs very low in the front and will almost always never clear a parking block. A little further underneath, we have power steps and very expensive lithium batteries, and I think our ground clearance averages about 6 inches. Now, some other larger RVs may have more clearance, but length becomes a factor also with some of those longer wheelbase rigs, because you can high center if you're not careful about where you're going. As for the physical limitations of my own rig, which is based on the Ram ProMaster 2500 high roof chassis, I installed sumo springs in the rear to give it better handling and stability, and it also raises the rear of the van slightly, about an inch. We have a lot of very sensitive systems underneath, so any additional ground clearance is definitely a plus. There are also a few other options for raising the van. For example, the front can be raised with strut tower extensions, although it's a very laborious process. There are also various options for the rear. I'm currently considering using a company called Off-Highway Van. I'll link them below. I've spoken to them a couple of times now, and they offer a complete lift kit for the ProMaster that will provide 2 or 3 inches of additional ground clearance. They'll sell you just the hardware kit itself, or they also offer installation in their facility in Utah, so that might be an upcoming road trip and video to watch for. Depending on your living and traveling situation, insurance coverage can be a little tricky. If you're not yet an owner, you should probably research insurance companies now so that you know who you're going to use. Most carriers have restrictions on the type of coverage you can have. For example, for full-timers coverage, you may not be allowed to have a permanent residence, or your coverage may be different or more expensive if you don't own an automobile in addition to the RV. A specific example for me is I found out that Progressive's default comprehensive coverage does not include glass replacement, only repair. So a windshield replacement is subject to your comprehensive deductible. You have to specifically select a deductible with a $0 glass coverage. I was able to update my policy online and it only changed the rate slightly, so it was definitely worth checking into that. Also, be sure to decide what level of total loss replacement coverage you want. Options include the market value of the rig at the time of the loss, up to and including actual purchase price coverage. I think that there are time limitations on some of those coverages, specifically actual purchase price coverage. So just do your research ahead of time. While we always hope things go smoothly, make sure that you have everything in order to keep yourself safe on the road. Make sure you have a roadside assistance plan that will help you nationwide with things like flat tires, dead batteries, running out of fuel, or being stuck in the mud or sand. And make sure you have that information readily available. Note that most roadside assistance coverage will only come a certain distance off the pavement to retrieve you. I've seen as low as 10 feet from the pavement and as high as 100 yards. So if you plan on boondocking, just take extra care to examine your surroundings and make sure that you're not in a place where they're not going to come help you. Depending on what class of RV you have, this is on a scale from, you kind of need to do that, to you really have to do it or you're not sleeping tonight. Little Class Bs like mine are pretty easy to navigate in cities and towns, and finding a place to park really isn't too difficult. I have the standard size Active, which is just under 20 feet long, so it fits in most normal parking spots. But when you move up to a Class C, your options get a little more limited. You're likely to take up more than one parking space, and you have to make sure you have enough room to safely park and exit the vehicle. Moving up to a Class A pretty much means that you need an itinerary. You might be able to find a Walmart or a Cracker Barrel or something to park at, but your options are limited very quickly. Some national parks won't even allow very large Class A's on the property, and some places are very difficult to even drive around in downtown areas. RV parks tend to fill up fast and pretty far in advance during the travel season, so you'll want to make sure you have arrangements made ahead of time. I might be able to go somewhere on a whim in my Class B, but someone in a diesel pusher doesn't really have that kind of flexibility. When you're new to RVing, you start thinking about what you use to live in your house, in the kitchen, in the bedroom, closet, bathroom. So you excitedly pack up boxes of stuff to move into your van. Then it's time to move in, and the first challenge you're faced with is where you're going to put everything. You start to realize that you were a little overzealous with how much to bring, but we can make it work. So you load up the RV, you pack everything in, and off you go. Well, by the time you've finished your first real trip, I think that you've probably come to a few conclusions. 1, you're tired of moving things to get to the things you really want. 2, you're tired of things moving around and falling over. 3, you realize that you packed winter clothes that you won't ever need. 4, you realize that you loaded up a full set of kitchen utensils that you didn't even use in your full kitchen at home. And 5, you realize that you barely touched the rest of the stuff anyway. Owning and traveling in an RV is a lesson in minimizing. Half the stuff that I packed the first time out has since been removed, and I have a lot of new things in the van that I never even thought of the first time. This is another reason I suggest taking some inaugural trips in the beginning, because chances are, if this is your first time in an RV, you'll probably go through the same process. I hope this has been helpful information, and as always, I'm happy to have a discussion in the comments below if you have any more questions. Be sure to like and subscribe, because I will have more coming to document my journey. I've decided this will be a year of significant travel, and as a result, I'm selling my house. I'm going to take a guest room at the house my daughter is in so that I have a place to come back to, but the plan really is to be out enjoying what the country has to offer. And part of that will be to document the journey and film and record and share it with you. So that's it for now, and until next time, have a great day.